Hello everybody, here we go for another one of these free Substack videos. Hope everybody's having a great day, whatever you are, whatever you may be doing. As usual, no trade calls, no recommendations or responsible loan stuff. We're here for educational purposes only. So I thought we'd take a look at DXY here. We've been alternating between DXY and SPX framework just to change a little bit. But basically here, what's going on DXY? Well, not an awful lot, right? As usual, clearly we've had a little bit of a lift, SPX printing new all-time highs with this ceasefire euphoria, everybody panic FOMOing to get back max long. But really, as usual, you don't want to focus on what the equity guys are doing, what the YOLO equity guys are doing. You want to look at rates, you want to look at FX to get a little bit of a more, grounded view of things. And here, nothing much has changed, right? We discussed the fact that here we have the potential ball underwater scenario for a pop back into 103, back inside the midpoint of this multi-year range. And on the other side, we highlighted the inability of market to attract new sellers below the 97 mark. So here what happened? We had impulsive move back up into the top end of the range. We said it would not be surprising to see a little bit of a stall. And what would the retracement zone be? Well, you had an awful lot of confluence back into the 2026 open and the cluster of moving averages. So here, this move pretty much A to B into these highs. You see the 50 back is coming in line again with this big cluster. So far the market has just retraced in what could be seen as a little bit of a healthy correction. And realistically speaking, we really, and again, I think this is what a lot of people have trouble squaring or getting through to them, is understanding that unless we substantially get real traction, attract proper buyers above the 100 or proper sellers below the 97, it's just chop. And put yourself, put this into perspective. Is it surprising? Not really, because have we had any clarity with rates? Not really. People got excited about a bunch of cuts coming, then people got excited about possible hikes coming, but nothing, right? We've had a start of a war, then we've had a ceasefire, then we have possible escalation, then we've had a possible pause. So again, the situation is not clear. Now, of course, equity guys are going to be going crazy trying to position ahead of what the next move is. But if you're looking at it here, it makes sense that, nothing much is going on, right? So what have you done for me lately? What would we be looking at? Well, I think you have to focus on this zone as being pivotal inside the 197. What does that mean? That means, and unfortunately in this context, especially on headlines, right? Especially on a headline that can get a break below these recent lows, right? And that means real progress in the conflict and the ceasefire. Then you'll probably get a good amount of asymmetry trying to short a break, tight stops above the cluster of this moving average. Basically, this would be your risk for a reward of a retest back into those 97 and possibly break lower. Or if you get some kind of a headline where we get a resumption of hostilities and things get a little bit scarier again, well, then that means getting long, stop below these lows, looking for this dollar to firm up, especially on a break above this cluster of moving averages, meaning that this would be your risk for your reward, move back into those 100s, and then possibly that break catch a little bit of a runner back into 103. Now, all things being equal, I think there's a bigger chance that as we stand that we get a runner into the 100, then you get a runner through these lows, right? So even though you've got risk of 100 to the upside and 97 to the downside and possibly lower, I think the breakout, it's far more likely that you get this impulsive move than a big break lower. Again, this could change any second on any headline, but that's the way I'm looking at it here. So I think especially looking at this chart, it's hard to get a really clear, bigger picture view going. And probably it's just going to be down to headlines, and it wouldn't be surprising that as long as the situation stays chaotic, we stay broadly trading inside this range. But again, remember, you've got a gap here. This could fill in a second back to the scene of the crime if you get a little bit of escalation. And again, maybe the fact that we're back at all-time highs, this buys Trump some room to get a little bit firmer in the way he's dealing with things. Who knows? But bottom line, we're still kind of stuck here. And another way to look at it here, instead of looking at SPX or NASDAQ that are flying, especially as here we're going into earnings, so everybody's going to be all YOLO'd up, is to take a look at something like DAX, right? If you go back and you take a look at DAX, you see here we're also stuck in this broader range, right? After we had this big rip after Liberation Day lows, we've been essentially stuck in this broader range, right? With 25,000 to the upside, 23,000 to the downside, and the 24,000 as a midpoint. Also, interesting here, you've got, since we're going nowhere, is it surprising that the moving averages have to flatten out and they converge in the middle? Absolutely not. So you can forget looking at these here, but essentially this is giving you a more balanced view than US equity markets. And you see that despite the panic on the escalation and the rip on the de-escalation, here we're still fairly range bound, struck inside the 24,000. So I think also if you're looking on that on currency or rates to follow the US equity moves, what you probably need is the DAX to follow through too, European indices to follow through and break outside of this sideways range. And this is probably a good way to look at it to get a feeling of what the broader market is feeling, if it's time to properly YOLO and FOMO, or if it's time to still be a little bit cautious. Okay, so hope that was useful. Wishing everybody an awesome one. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.